In this video, I want to show you how to do something really exciting, creating a jungle using large, hardy plants that give that wow factor and that excitement. And you don't have to use plants that are from the jungle. You're creating the effect and the illusion, and it's such good fun. Okay, so now's the fun bit. I want to show you some of the key structural plants that we use in the jungle. Now, some of these are the big, tall, lofty Rudbeckias with those gorgeous, intense yellow flowers, and some of the shorter, stockier grasses. And it's about combining the foliage and the flowers and repeating them to get this wonderful array of textures and colours. And at the end, I want to show you planting a hardy ginger, because for me, these ooze exotic, and yet they are fully hardy. I have to confess, I'm slightly addicted to using this plant, and many of you will know it by its herb name, which is fennel. Very widely used as a medicinal plant. But for me, it's the most wonderful plant to use in the garden, because the minute it starts looking tired, you can just chop it back to the base and it sprouts back again. And in a single season, you get up to 6, sometimes 8 feet of growth. So this whole idea of creating this lush foliage is helped so much by the plants, which are as tough as anything, and if you do have to cut them back, it doesn't matter, and they last a long time. Some of these really big perennials tend to peter out quite quickly, but I find that fennels, despite the fact you're pretty tough with them, you'll get years and years and years of growth from them. But they do have this beautiful kind of fluff to them, and I love to use them alongside the other plants because they're almost like a filter, and the flowers themselves have a really pretty colour to them. But like so many plants I work with, it's not necessarily about the flowers, half of it's about the foliage as well. If there's one plant you want for the wow factor, this has to be it, especially in the jungle. This is Miscanthus giganteum, and it gets to about 8 or 9 feet tall in a single season, and there's very few plants that do that. And when we originally did this garden for the kids, who are 3 and 5, everything above 4 feet looks big to them, but introduce them to something that's 8 or 9 feet and suddenly the wow factor explodes. The beauty of Miscanthus is that it's so strong, it's so structural. In the winter time it looks fabulous as it dries, and in the spring you just jump in with a pair of shears, cut it right back, and within a few weeks it's grown up again. Quite a lot of people think of it, and when they see it, as a bamboo. I mean, bamboos are also good, but unlike many of the bamboos, and in fact many of the grasses, this doesn't spread. It's really well behaved, well contained, and for me, every jungle has to have this one. Now, what's fun with a jungle garden is to use plants that can be, if you like, a bit tricky and something that you might have to bring inside in the winter time. I don't like to get too reliant on those, because obviously you've got to do a lot of juggling in the winter time, but there are some which I have to use. I just have to, because I'm in love with them. Cannas. The Edwardians went mad for them, and they kind of come and go in fashions, but the cannas do something that so many plants can't do, which is they look like pure tropical planting. Many of them are grown really for their leaf colour and their shape, and they come in sort of a variety of colours, from very strong greens through to yellows to deep reds and purples, and this is a good one, which is Canna Purpurea. So in September, October time, you dig the thing up, put it into fresh compost and put it into a dry space. You don't need lots of heat, it's just about keeping them dry during the winter time. So much like the Canna, which is, as I say, something you have to lift in the winter, this is another one which falls into that category, and again, I love to use them. It's a hardy banana, so kind of like the common name is the Japanese bananas, and the proper name is Musa, M-U-S-A. But these are glorious, and if there's anything that says jungle, it has to be a hardy banana. Sadly, you won't get any fruits, but with these it's all about the foliage, and again, in a single season they produce these wafty, great big strapping leaves, and if there's a bit of shelter for them, that sort of adds to the size that they get to. If you really want to push them hard, a bit of sort of liquid food like tomato food every other week, and that just kind of keeps them going. But wet feet, they really like to be growing in the damp. Now if you want a plant that has a flower that's tall, and this is a plant which has almost outrageously tall stems, this is a Rudbeckia laciniata, that's its full proper name, and this has a cultivar name of Herbstsonne. The flowers themselves are not the most enormous things at all. Beautiful, intense, rich yellow, but they are on top of a sort of 8 or sometimes 9 feet tall stem. So for most of the summer these stems just go up and up and up, and you think nothing is going to happen, and then you get this peppering of beautiful, beautiful flowers on the surface, and in a gentle breeze you just get this waftiness to them, and they just tower towards the sky, racing up taller and taller. And you know, again, for that whole jungle effect, as you're walking through looking up, they just work a treat. Eupatorium are big, strong structural plants as well, and this in fact is one of our native plants. So if you drive around certainly this part of Cumbria, you will come across this, and it's fun to use native plants alongside the cultivated garden plants, and then the slightly more awkward customers that you perhaps have to bring in the winter time. The common name for this is Joe pie weed, and Eupatoriums, again, like so many of the plants we've been talking about, come in a whole range of sizes. There's very compact versions of this, and there's even taller ones of this one as well. Really, really good for insects as well, because they produce this amazing sort of landing pad arrangement of flowers. So if you look closely at them, what you're looking at is literally thousands of tiny little individual flowers that the insects absolutely adore. Flower well into August, into early September, and they plug a time of the year when traditionally a lot of plants wouldn't be flowering. One of the things you really have to embrace with the jungle concept is not allowing things to have too much space. You've got to cram them in, because that full effect you're aiming for only comes when you get the plants sort of shoulder to shoulder, jostling for space. The more they jostle for that space, the taller they're going to grow, which also sort of adds to that full effect. So I'm going to take this ginger and sort of shoehorn it in between 3 or 4 other plants, where traditionally you might step back and say, well, there's not much room there. But that's something you've got to just forget, leave by the wayside, and jump in there and shoehorn the thing in. So I'm going to dig a reasonable size hole for it. The soil here is not bad, but the beauty again of these gingers is that they're not overly fussy about the quality of the soil. The one thing they don't particularly like is drying out. One way you get round that is to add some compost to the soil, which we do every spring anyway. So from that point of view, it's relatively straightforward. So when it comes to taking this out the pot, the best thing, because the stems are a little bit brittle, is to hold it securely at the base and then just give the pot a bit of a tap, take it away. And then with the gingers you have these beautiful sort of fleshy roots, and I appreciate this is TV so you're not going to see it, but if you squeeze the roots they have this like soft gingery smell to them. They're absolutely glorious, and you can see the new shoots starting to emerge, really big strong things, look a bit like bamboos actually when they're coming through. So I'm going to very sort of lightly loosen up some of these roots. It's not that essential really. And then transfer the whole thing, planting the soil depth at the top here to match what you've already got at the top of the hole, if you like. So when it comes to planting, you need to put it into the ground and make sure that you get that soil depth right, so that the top of the root ball, if you like, is the same as the soil depth. Don't squeeze it in too hard. You don't have to absolutely pack the soil down. It's quite good to keep it a little bit on the loose side, because the roots are able to establish better then. And in terms of watering, not too important today because we've had a fair amount of rain and the soil's nice and damp. But in a few days, if there isn't any obvious rain on the horizon, jump in here with a watering can and give it a good drink. So for the first 2 or 3 weeks you need to keep on top of that, but once it's away it'll be able to look after itself completely. So that's how I create a jungle effect garden in the heart of Cumbria, and if you've got any questions, leave a comment below.